Well, just like that, we're live. I forgot to change the screen, and so we're just live all of a sudden. It's been that kind of day. It's really been that kind of day.
It certainly has.
How are you, man? Sorry about that. We usually have a
good.
countdown, so the people know that a minute and a half from now we'll be live. Instead, I just
Surprise.
said, I'm going to hit the red button.
Launch.
Yeah.
Just send it. Full send.
So what's good with you, man? What's new?
Not a lot. Still getting prepped to move.
Yeah.
My daughter is about to graduate. She just had her last day of school today.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver had his last day of school yesterday.
Wow.
So the kids have now launched into early homeschool summer, which is really good. They've done really well this year, and so the summer is well deserved for them. So I'm pretty excited. Oliver is probably looking. He's been talking heavily about getting into a summer job that puts him in some type of garage. He wants to learn how to work on cars. And so
beautiful summer school down here. I've got a car he could work on all summer, and we could really grind him into 110 degrees. I'll just like set little jars of water out every once in a while. Be like, is that exhaust manifold replaced yet? Come on.
Yeah.
No, I think that's actually really cool, dude.
Yeah, and we told him, like, like any young person, especially in the last two generations, they think they're going to go immediately into mechanics or, in management positions or whatever. I'm like, no. You're going to be sweeping, and you're going to be busting tires before you touch anything. Like, and he goes, oh. I was like, hey, you got to work your way up. Like, in a kitchen, you're going to wash dishes and clear tables before they even let you near food.
I mean, even coming out of like an ASE certified school or whatever, they're not just going to be like, here, reprogram this ECU,
right?
Oh,
yeah. So but yeah, Kate is not playing her final games, but she's still got a couple more. But she's down in Moscow right now playing a tournament down there. So Aaron's down there with her right now, and Oliver's at the shop working. But so outside of that,
I think you or your wife posted a photo of like first day of kindergarten, last day of high school side by side. Yeah. And I was saying off air, like the former photo, the little person, that's what that's the image that's conjured up in my mind when I think about your kids, is when they're like this big and they're still small. And it's like unbelievable to me that she's graduating high school.
Yeah. Yep. Graduated high school.
That's insane.
18, has a tattoo, working full time, and almost done with her softball career. Yeah. But everyone keeps asking her.
She's closing in on retirement. Ooh.
Well, they keep asking her what she, are you going to go to college and stuff?
Yeah.
And she's not. She plans on just working a lot and stuffing away cash, and she might eventually take some online courses for business degrees or something to that effect, but nothing collegiately substantial. So, but it's actually what spawned her senior thesis, which she gets to defend. She's already presented. Now she gets to defend it in front of a panel of judges, including some school board members locally that we know that got selected to be part of this judging panel. And her senior thesis is #MeToo, how modern feminism has destroyed the nation. And it is a 20-page paper dedicated to the historical evidence of how feminism has actually hurt society, hurt women, and hurt men along the way, and has destroyed the as a Marxist-based movement, it has destroyed the nuclear family and has spun both sex is out of array to a point where we're no longer a functioning society because of it. And most everything is a spin-off of this Marxist ideology that has become a big problem. And so that's
I'd be inclined to agree with her if it weren't for all my toxic masculinity. So,
she covers that. She covers toxic masculinity
in
it too.
So how does this work? Like, who determines if she wins or loses the argument? And what happens if she loses? Do they like, fuck you, you're demoted back to 11th grade? Or like, how does that work?
I don't think so. I think she just gets graded on her thesis.
Oh, it's how did you argue for it? And here's your...
Yeah. Do you actually understand the paper you wrote, essentially?
Okay.
And so they will obviously have access to the paper. They will read it. And then from that point on, they will ask questions that they have of her paper, and she has to defend those questions. So, which she's very capable of doing. So, in each of those questions is graded and determined on how she defended it, and then she gets a final grade on it, which ultimately would matter if she was going into any further study. But like, I guess
I like the idea that you get to defend it to a panel, just in defense of like, I wrote this, I understand it, AI didn't do this for me, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like in that context, I guess I kind of understand it, but defending the parameters of it is great. The content is purely subjective. That's why I was asking. Like, you know, well, that's cool. So when does all this take place?
That's a good question. I'm in the dad role.
I got you.
I get told when this stuff happens.
You need to be here at 11. Like, okay.
Right.
Yep.
Oliver just had his, so the homeschool programs that they're a part of, it's called Classical Conversations, and is the curriculum that they take. And their group, they meet once a week with their group and their head teacher. They go over all the work, and then they get more work, and they do all their projects together and debates and labs and all that kind of stuff. Spend a full day doing that.
Sure.
Once a week. But instead of a prom, they have, during the high school years, they have what is known as protocol. And protocol is an etiquette program that they get kind of tested on as well. So essentially they learn societal etiquette and eating etiquette and stuff like that, where they get dressed up. And Oliver, we recently went out and bought him a suit because I'd gotten him a gift card for Christmas to get a suit for, you know, all of his debates and lawyer stuff that he does. And so they all get dressed up, they go out to a fancy dinner, and then like for this, and it changes every time. Like sometimes they do an art show or they do something, you know, completely different. But this time they went to the symphony. And the symphony downtown Spokane, at the Fox Theater,
kick-ass experience for somebody that age too.
Absolutely, especially because he plays violin, so like he loves to watch it. But even better, the last time we went, it was the Harry Potter Symphony.
Nice.
And it was absolutely incredible. But this time they played Empire Strikes Back and did all of the music to the entire movie for the Empire Strikes Back, and that's what they did for their protocol. So it was pretty cool. He had a good time. So they're done for the year. He's good to go.
He's got 3 more grades to go, or just 2?
Yeah,
3 more.
He's going into his sophomore year.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, but yeah, they had a blast. So Erin went. She got all dolled up and all fancied out and went with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but so yeah, that's the update on the kids.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a very busy summer for you.
Yeah, it is. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I can see it.
Just thinking about the next couple of weeks of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the garage right now going, you're first. I got to get you done first so that everything else can be staged in the garage.
Yeah.
So
are you gonna like do the stage gate process of like it's aggregation of stuff, separation of stuff, yard sale of stuff, then we pack and we move? Or are we just putting everything we see into boxes and we're going to transplant it and figure it out?
Room by room, organized by sectional piles and colors, and then loading it up in one day. Because I've got my trailer, we're getting a U-Haul. Yeah. We've got three trucks. Should be able to do it in one fell swoop. However, yeah, we're gonna do it in one day, but there won't be a yard sale because the fire last time kind of took care of that for us. You know, so like when we moved out of that last house, I gutted we didn't have any damage, but it was like, oh well, now's the time. Like, let's just get rid of a bunch of stuff. So we did, and so we're down to what we need, and we haven't really accumulated much in the less than 2 years that we've been here. Kind of the same. But I was
gonna say that smoker was a pain in the ass to get up there. I imagine. Oh, dude, yeah. I imagine. Hopefully, you have an extra set of hands to help you move some shit.
We'll have plenty. Okay. But also, that smoker was only half as hard as that giant solid oak table that's out on the back porch too.
Man,
Oliver's crying about that already. I was like, don't worry, we're taking it downstairs. All we have to do is slide it. Slide it down the stairs.
Yeah, that's the thing. Can you take a couple of screws out, break it into a couple pieces, and just reassemble it?
The legs come off. It's still
a million pounds.
Legs off.
Yeah,
it's like 350 pounds.
Oh, dude, yeah. I have this this beautiful table. You'll see it when you come down. That my buddy made for me. That was epoxy resin. Right, so it's got this beautiful wood inlay. It's just super high gloss. He cut like a river into it. There's like lights underneath it and stuff. And it was this first kind of stab at doing epoxy resin, but it's high gloss, meaning it's drenched in epoxy resin, which adds a ridiculous amount of weight. And so I'm trying to move this table, and then I get down here and it's like just me and Dad. And I'm like, all right, Pop, I'm going to grab this hand truck. All you got to do is tilt that thing. I'll take care of it, because this is not going to be a fun job. And then he built a couple more that are different. You'll see them when you get down here. But stuff like that you just forget about it. Years go by and you're like, oh, yeah, I got to move that. That's always rough. Geez,
other
dude.
Things real quick, too.
Yeah.
Kate blew out a tire in Aaron's car. Turns out that her two front tires were basically gone. The back two were fine, so that means there was a balance issue.
Yeah,
you know, and but they couldn't just put the two on; they had to put four on. So I had to buy a whole new set of tires for Aaron's car, and then our dryer just took a crap, so we had to have a repair guy come out, and that was another $300 fix. So it's just I'm tired because of all of that. So I'm just like, oh my gosh,
endless tide of logistical shit that keeps popping up. So were you able to get the car aligned at least after the new tires were put on? They looked at it and were like, oh shit, we should fix this.
Fortunately, we tattoo all of the guys at Elite Tire, and so they give us a discount. Nice. And also throw in stuff like that, because we always give them a discount at the shop, and they're in there every other week. So but they're good dudes down there. So they really help out.
I transplanted the suspension in my car a few months ago, 3 months ago, and me and Paul were in the garage, and the only thing I didn't touch was the rack and pinion piece. So I'm like, I have kind of a point of reference, but I mean, traction rods, camber arms, tow arms, the height of the car, everything. The upper control arms was completely replaced. And so I'm like, this alignment's going to be really bad when you have one tire pointing that way and one tire's pointing this way, and it's all just super goofy. So we're in the garage with strings and 2x4s and tape measures, and we're trying to eyeball this thing to get it close enough, because the idea is, as long as they're all roughly pointed in the same direction, I can get the car to an alignment place. Right. And the alignment place doesn't have blockers for the ride-on ramps, which is really silly. So, and I hadn't had final height adjustment. I just needed it to go in a straight line so I could take it home and work on it some more. And the front was very low. It wouldn't even fit on the rack. So I'm taking the bumper off in the parking lot. She'll fit. Like, we did it too, man. We got it up there, and then I got everything balanced when I got home and adjusted and stuff. But that's cool they helped you out, because that stuff, it's tedious. You know, it's like if they have the machines, it's great. But when you're doing it with like string and 2x4s, trying to... And the guy was like, actually, this is not complete trash. That one's trash, but this is... He's like, did you do this? I'm like, I had to. He's like, oh, it wasn't bad for eyeballing it. I'm like, thanks, man. Yeah. Yeah, dude, this week's nuts. The temperature's in flux. Summer's breaking through. I had tremendously high wind down here, like really bad. And it was knocking trash cans over and blowing stuff all over the yard. And then that just disappeared. But I get a notification Friday of last week that's like, hey, you might lose power because the wind gusts are going to be between 25 and 75 miles per hour.
That's a huge difference.
Like, that's kind of a variance. And it's calm Friday morning early. I'm like, sure, I'll take the bike out. So I'm heading up to the Valley of Fire, and I'm probably 60-70% of the way there. And I'm just in the middle of nowhere. And I get hit like it. I thought somebody hit me with a bat on the side of the head. And I'm like, oh, like just wind out of nowhere, just woof. And then it started picking up, and I was like, we're going home. So I turned around and came home. I did lose power for probably 2-3 hours. And then it started to come back. The internet's been wild since then, because I think they lost nodes. So it's just been up and down. But in the up and down, I purchased a ticket for 2 weeks from now on Sunday night to see Dr. Jordan Peterson lecture on his new book that's coming out. I think it's called We Who Wrestle with God, and he's going to be here in Las Vegas, and it's going to be like the start of his 2024 tour, and then he goes to like Jerusalem and stuff. And I normally don't click on the like Ticketmaster ads, because you know you buy one concert ticket and they're just, you know, they just bombard you with all this crap. And I was like, oh shit, that like there's a name I know, and that's actually a lecture I would love to sit through, because I've kind of been following up to this point. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm actually pretty excited. Yeah. So that'll happen, I think, 2 Sundays from now. And the tickets weren't bad at all. I'm like in nosebleed, but I don't care. It's not like I'm going to see a rock show where I need to be in the crowd. You know, I just need to hear what he's saying. So, I'll probably have quite a bit of thoughts on that coming into the pod afterwards, like kind of toward right when you're moving. So maybe I'll aggregate something where I can put it together for our listeners and stuff. But I'm really looking forward to that. So it should be pretty fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it. So other than that, not much else. I got you guys hopefully coming down week 2, week 3, something like that. And then I go on vacation finally, which is exciting. So as soon as this starts getting real hot, I start looking for a way out of my neck of the woods. So you know what I mean? Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
June, July, I'm out. That's what'll take my vacation. But so this week a lot's happened, man. Figured we could talk about quite a few things. I kind of want to start with this HR 6090 business, just because I've read it, but I haven't like super explored all the possibilities. And I was feverishly writing notes about HR 6090. And for those of you that are curious about it, HR 6090 is the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2023 is what it's listed as, but it just passed. It was introduced then. It just passed the House.
Yeah. But it hasn't made it to the Senate yet.
But
so the Senate could push back on it, but then also even if they didn't, then Biden could even veto it if he felt it necessary, and then it would get pushed back to the I think the House again is where it would go, since it's a House bill.
It's a House bill. So, and I think it's probably worthy of starting off in defense of the genre a little bit. I don't like things that challenge any part or even come close to challenging part of the U.S. Constitution, which we'll get into. I'm not in favor of anti-Semitism, even if I'm not in favor of this bill. So I think we should just lay the table stakes out before crucifixions ensue on random forums.
Yeah, because this is a sticky one. This is one that we have to thread properly and navigate slowly, and because it's very easy to get pulled to one side or the other, or have it appear that you're pulling to one side or the other, and that is not the case here. And it's also not the case that we're trying to take the safe road.
Correct.
There's actually very, very principled reasons why we would agree or disagree with the different components to what is going on in this situation.
Yeah. So the top title for this, and good points too, because I think the spirit of the content is pretty easy to stomach. I don't think anyone's necessarily going to argue with it. The presentation manner in which this could become law is what I might take issue with, right? So this is kind of an art of the possible or a what if type of discussion. The top head for HR 6090, I'm reading enact, and this is from the 118th Congress / House - bill, right? To provide for the consideration of a definition of anti-Semitism set forth by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance for the enforcement of federal anti-discrimination laws concerning education programs or activities, and for other purposes. ... So I think the reason I wanted to talk about this, A, it's new, B, I think it's bizarre, and C, I think this follows quite nicely with the story we did week before last around the new rules in school and government-funded educational institutions on how folks can be investigated for discrimination and so forth, right?
Correct.
Title IX.
Yeah.
So that's the short title. The act may be cited as the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. So there's a bunch of provisions that I'm not necessarily going to read all of them, because there's a section 2 is the sense of Congress. I will read you the policy of the United States to enforce such title against prohibited forms of discrimination rooted in anti-Semitism as vigorously and as against all other forms of discrimination prohibited by such title. So, as noted by National Strategy to Counter Anti-Semitism, it's to increase awareness and understanding of anti-Semitism, including its threat to America, improve safety and security for Jewish communities, reverse the normalization of anti-Semitism and counter anti-Semitic discrimination. That's why we said what we said at the top, by the way, so we don't fall into category C. And then D, expand communication and collaboration between communities. So surface level, okay. Why does raising awareness need to become a law? Because it goes directly into Section 3 findings. So stopping right there, one has to ask a few questions about, like, what could this mean? Does that make parts of the Bible anti-Semitic? Because, you know,
that's a good question.
Like, how far does this go? Before you jump in, I'll say at the very last line of this, second to last line, the last line is passed the House of Representatives May 1. The second to last line is constitutional protections. Nothing in this act shall be construed to diminish or infringe upon any right protected under the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. So codifying this law also says you're not even allowed to suggest or construe that it's going to diminish or infringe on the First Amendment. It doesn't say that it does not infringe on the First Amendment. It says it shall not be construed to diminish or infringe upon any right protected under the First Amendment. That's the part where my hair kind of stands on end.
Yep.
Because now you can't argue it because we said so.
Right. You know, there's the back and forth going on right now of, well, what this does is, does this determine that the entire New Testament is anti-Semitic? Are preachers and pastors going to be allowed to even talk about New Testament stuff without being in breach of this new law? Also, because there's no caveats within the structure of how this is written that would allow for any of that. Also, not that I believe it, but there's a common sentiment amongst certain groups that the Jews killed Jesus. Now, do I think that they have the right to say that? Yeah. Do I think it's stupid? Do I think the Jews killed Jesus? No. However, I think that they have the right to say it. Under the First Amendment. I think gross language and wrong thought and wrong language are absolutely permissible within the rights that are bestowed upon us by by a God, actually. Like, let's not pretend like the government is the one who's bestowing these rights, or that a piece of paper is the one doing it. The piece of paper is just saying that the government isn't allowed to take those away from us, which is exactly what this is doing. And
sure looks like
at least loosely looks like it, right? And so, it does have the hair on the back of my neck standing up because, I've been very vocal about pushing back against both sides of the aisle, whether it be the super leftist, pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, anti-Jewish kind of sentiment, and also the Groyper anti-Jewish sentiment. So I've been extremely vocal about that.
Yeah, you haven't really moved positions on that one.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So this has, different implications that I think, is giving them both, like, see, look at this is exactly what we've been talking about. It's giving them ammunition, but it's also in a complete violation. If it's gonna go down the way it looks like it's written, it's a complete violation of First Amendment rights, and it is a leap too far. It is a leap too far, but it is a reaction to what is going on college campuses all over the country right now, and I think it's a knee-jerk reaction. I think that ultimately what's going to end up happening is that even if it passes the Senate, which I don't really see it happening, and even if Joe Biden doesn't veto it and it doesn't get kicked back to the House, ultimately what it's going to do is it's going to end up in the lap of the Supreme Court. They're going to have to rule on this. And there's no way to rule in favor of this at all. And if you look up the makeup of the Supreme Court, there's nobody who's going to be pushing for unrestricted protections of Jewish law.
As the crow flies, May 7, 2024, nobody's going to... nobody in the Senate or Biden's camp would back a Republican-sponsored House Act anyway. Just on its face. So your gut instinct is correct. I'll jump to Section 3 findings. Number 1, Congress finds the following. Anti-Semitism is on the rise in the United States and is impacting Jewish students in K-12 schools, colleges, and universities.
Yep.
Number 2, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, referred to in this act as IHRA, working definition of anti-Semitism, is a vital tool which helps individuals understand and identify the various manifestations of anti-Semitism. On December 11th of 2019, Executive Order 13899 extended protections against discrimination under the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to individuals subjected to anti-Semitism on college university campuses, and tasked federal agencies to consider the IHRA working definition of anti-Semitism when enforcing Title VI of such act. Since 2018, the Department of Education has used IHRA working definition of anti-Semitism when investigating violations of Title VI. The use of alternative definitions of anti-Semitism impairs enforcement efforts by adding multiple standards and may fail to identify many of the modern manifestations of anti-Semitism. Interesting.
Yeah.
Then it gets into a whole bunch of why this is rad, because it's bipartisan, includes a list of contemporary examples of anti-Semitism, all backed by IHRA's definition logbook. That's their cited source and guiding.
Do you know where
guiding
star? Where their cited source is? because what is it?
I presume it's a convoluted attempt to recreate the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
It actually comes from the ADL.
Okay.
So the Anti-Defamation League, and then also the SPLC. So the ADL is running basically the show on this. Now, as much as I am a supporter of Israel and the Jewish people, this is where things get like people will automatically lump in the fact that I must love the ADL. In fact, the opposite. I think the ADL does more harm to the Jewish people in Israel than it does good, but I also think that it's a wildly leftist, Marxist, progressive organization that needs to be abolished from the planet. I think that they go after Christians, they go after everybody else, and make the give more fuel to the fire than they actually put out fires. So, and I'm not a fan of the ADL. I think that there's definitely a Marxist leftist wing to all of the racism stuff. I am not affiliated with that. I want all of that gone as well. But that's where they're getting their definitions, is from the ADL. And so this is not good if that's where they're getting their definitions from.
Well, and here's where I stop playing ball and then just subsequently leave the ballpark altogether. It's the rules and Section 6, other rules of construction. Nothing in this act shall be construed, 1, to expand the authority of the Secretary of Education. Okay. 2, to alter the standards pursuant in which the Department of Education makes a determination that harassing conduct amounts to actionable discrimination. 0 enforcement written into this for that, by the way. It's just going to be lumped in with Title IX. 3, to diminish or infringe upon the rights protected under any other provision of law that is in effect as of the date of the enactment of this act, until more enactments of this act and those like it become codified by law. And then ends on the constitutional protection, which I cited earlier, shall be construed to diminish or infringe upon First Amendment. That's where I'm like, nope, because we're leaving the door open to say, oh, no, this isn't that until it is.
Until it is. Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, it just leaves the door too wide open for too many things. So that's why I think it'll get immediately challenged.
I hope so.
At the Supreme Court level, because there's just no way. It's too loosely written, and it opens the door for violations of First Amendment rights across the board. And so they're going to have to if they want protections to be added, they're going to have to really refine them. And then also what makes this class of protections special? And it's literally, like I said, just a knee-jerk reaction to like the fact that there is such a weird push now, oddly, that is merging the two totalitarian sides of the political aisle, whether it be Marxist leftists, progressive types, Soros funded, all of that kind of stuff, and then the extreme far right.
Yeah,
because I would say I'm extreme right, but I draw the line at anti-Semitism, and I also draw the line, or racism in general. But I also draw the line at the whole monarchy thing, which I've been accused of punching right so many times, and I think it's absurd, because that's the delineator. That's what they're like. Why are you punching at people who are more conservative than you? And I'm like, let's do a tally mark list.
And also unethical is unethical, no?
Say that, what?
Also, unethical is unethical, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
But that's what they keep implying, is that I'm punching right because they're more conservative than me. And I was like, that's not conservative. That's totalitarian.
Right.
If you think that you want a monarchical state, a monarchy that's top down, that is absolutely totalitarian, that is absolutely dictatorial, that is absolutely all. You just want your side to be in charge rather than the leftist Marxist to be in charge. I want neither of you to be in charge.
The central tenet of both arguments is the acclamation and exertion of power.
Correct.
In totality. Right. It's also
I want neither of them there.
It's also un-American.
100% un-American.
Yeah.
And they hate to hear that, but that's the reality of it. That's the truth, is that it is not American in concept. Right. And they hate that. They hate that that America has any type of liberalism or enlightenment that has been built into the Constitution from the forefathers. They think that was a mistake. They want full top-down, Catholic or Christian ruled, and there's no, to me, if we break it down on a theological level, same as the left. I don't want them to tell me that I have to abide by force, that I have to abide by their structure of morality. I don't think that God wants us as a people to be forced into faith. The point is for us to actually choose it, to actually be a part of that relationship, to actually not be forced down on our knees to say you are having to convert or you're gone. Right. We've got an entire group of these Groyper guys who really, really just want to do the Spanish Inquisition again. They think that was a good thing. That's the
part that crushes me is we're angling more toward turning ire into the modern crusade. And no part of that is good ideologically or in practice. None of that's a good idea. Yeah.
Now a crusade in defense and pushback on a Muslim caliphate that has wiped out all of Europe and has taken over, and the War of Vienna and the Battle of Vienna and all of that I fully agree with that. And the Catholics had it right there, and I'm totally on board with it. They had to save Christendom. They had to save Europe because it would have been completely decimated by the Ottoman Turks. I fully understand that. Yeah. But to then take it from a defensive thing and
to outright Napoleonic
and then just start wiping people out because they won't bend the knee. Yeah, I'm sure God's really giving you the thumbs up on that. I don't think that that's what he wants. He wants you to bring people to Christ, not force them to their knees and chop off their heads if they don't say yes.
Well, and that is the problem with what happened then in the danger of it repeating itself is when the dogma is, God's telling the Pope in former cases, or, the enlightened chosen head of the church that is now presiding over the state, that this must be because that's God's will. That just doesn't stop. It opens the license for the Napoleonic push toward complete domination, which I don't understand how any of that is rationalized in anybody's head. Yeah. It's like you could rip and replace that with Hamas. You could rip and replace it with ISIS. You can rip and replace pretty much any faith to dogma to totalitarian belief structure in an ideological straight line through all of it.
What's the point of the inception of the United States is that's why they wanted it to be the way it was so that we did not have people doing that. By using in a blasphemous way God's name, which is the first commandment not to do,
as a license to kill.
As a license to kill for your ideology. And he does not want that. And he's specific about it, but yet that seems to be glossed over pretty easily when there are powers that be that would love to take control over the situation. Now, do I think that I want the country to live and abide by a Christian standard? Of course I do. But I want them to choose it. Mm-hmm. And will they? I don't know. Probably not. If we're looking at it from a biblical perspective, we're going I don't want to get into Isaiah or Jeremiah or Revelations, but what I do know is that God doesn't say, and the Bible doesn't say that it turns out so well in the end.
Right.
So we're kind of on a path towards that. Can we stave it off as long as possible and save as many souls before that happens, or at least try, or at least put ourselves planting seeds to do it? Yes, please. But ultimately, it's written how it's going to end from a biblical perspective. I mean, we're talking to a broader audience that may not share these kind of concerns, but
frankly, human nature is such that, as long as it's not happening to me, I can bury my head in the sand. So it really takes radicalism to change en masse, where people then wake up and go, oh, fuck, this is so much worse than we thought it was, when it's way too late, whatever late may be. And if that's the end times and the rapture, if you believe that, or if it's a complete totalitarian monarchist, like all these roads lead down to, like, you do have some time to maybe change from a societal perspective.
But if we want to bring it back from the theology portion of it and just talk political,
sure.
I find it very fascinating that the horseshoe is now touching. So, like, the far right is now, like, Nick Fuentes just got reinstated to Twitter the other day, which I think is brilliant because it'll just let everyone see what he really thinks, and because he can't shut his mouth long enough to hide it. But it's gonna be, he literally has already said that he now in a thread was saying, I think we're actually more in line with Biden than Trump, because
imagine
because of the Palestinian, we're far more attached and supportive of Palestine, and we want Israel wiped off the earth. So that's what the Biden administration wants. Screw the Republicans, screw the conservatives. They're off the chart now. We side with them. And I'm like, wow, like, how did I not see that?
Well,
I did see that. And so
you brought up a really good point that I was going to make a minute ago that's flooding back. This is why I love freedom of speech in this country as much as I do, is because you could take a knuckleheaded wormwood dog shit idea and put it out to the masses, and they can self-regulate by calling that person an idiot, justifying amongst themselves and tearing down that before it takes root. Even if it's a small minority of folks that believe that, there are processes by which this can be handled in open conversation. And that's, I think, the spirit and the intent of the freedom of speech that we have as a right now. So for me, I love when people go off the deep end in a public forum on that, because it does allow everyone to go, oh, yeah, you're an idiot, and kind of justify that for themselves. The problem that I have in the modern era is how slanted, twisted, soundbitey, and highlight reel everything becomes that's in or out of context, because there is no more nuance. People literally, I call it cosmopolitics. You just take a side because you were standing in the grocery aisle thumbing through the Cosmopolitan and read something that, Trevor Noah said last night, and that just must be law now because it's some soundbite that appeals to you in the moment without research. That's the scary part, is it's incumbent on us to figure out what's horse shit and to actually take a look. And I think that's the part that's starting to fade. But yeah, I love it. Yeah, put him back on there. I mean, for all the reasons you just mentioned, like,
well, now you get to see how much he actually agrees with the concepts of Sharia law. Right. That he actually agrees with the tenets of, throwing people off buildings, gays off buildings. They are so tied together as far as their ideologies go. They might as well just be Muslim, but it is the fact that they will hold hands with anybody that has the common enemy of the Jews that makes me realize, this is exactly what the Bible said would happen. And the Jews are actually, it's the same thing with Christians. Everyone loves to point out that, like, I always kind of do a systems check. And it is like, as a Christian, am I on the right path? Do I believe the right thing? You always do a systems check. And you go, everybody hates Christians. And I was like, and for, 2,000 years, it has said that, the Bible said 2,000 years ago that everyone's going to hate you for me. Jesus said that. And the unexplainable reason why people hate Christians, and they all have their own differences in their reasonings, but it feels more than natural that there is I mean, Christians are free reign. You can make fun of them in any medium, anything around they are the bottom of the barrel. Anybody can make fun of them. And there is a very heavy outward worldly push to destroy Christianity, and there has been for thousands of years. And much to their chagrin, it has not only stayed alive and healthy, but it has grown. But I feel the same thing for that I apply the same concept to the Jews, where it's like, why does everybody hate you so much? And I know all the historical reasons, 109 countries and all of that stuff.
We discussed a few.
100? Yeah. Why 109 countries? And then you look into why, and then you realize that, it's not that they were hurting people or anything, which they try to claim. It's that they weren't allowed to own property because they were Jews. So therefore, they ended up having to do usury banking so that they could make money for their family, which they ended up making money and creating wealth and power for themselves. And that pissed them off. So they got kicked out of countries, and over again, because they didn't have their own home. So now they get their own home, and everyone's like, no, they can't have that home either. I was like, well, didn't you want them out of your country?
Right.
Didn't you want to give them a home so that they wouldn't bother you guys anymore? Where can they go then? So that's my big question. It's like, if not Israel, where would you put them? And they're like, well, that's not the issue. We just want them gone. And I was like, there it is. Yeah. And so
I think it could be an issue, because I was reading some crackpot stuff about giving them Mars and stuff like that. I mean, the internet gets pretty wild with this stuff.
Jews on Mars.
Yeah, like that sounds like a good show. It sounds like a weird Netflix series that's coming out. But yeah, man,
starring Seth Rogen.
Fuck, throw Joe Rogan in there too. Get all the Rogans together. Who knows? Hey, speaking
to bring it back though to this bill.
Yeah.
Even after that kind of sidetrack diatribe that we went on of the defense of the Jewish people, if this is going to play out the way that it is, I'm still against this.
Yeah.
So I'm against anything that's an infringement of our rights. I don't care for whatever reason.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Speaking of dragging theology out of it and getting back to the paper book, 100% right. Yes. Yeah, I think it's bananas that this is even a sponsored idea, but it continues to get worse and worse and worse. Each one of these that I read, but I mean, this is obviously going to get curtailed into the Title IX stuff and continue to strengthen the witch hunt, as it's even calling its findings out on universities and college campuses as the premise of this act anyway. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't know how more people can't see through stuff like this too. They're like, that's dumb. No.
Well, I'm thinking that they are. There's actually a lot of pushback on it, even from people who are in support of Israel and support of Jews. There's a lot of pushback going, hey, no, not this is not okay.
Right.
Like, you guys this knee-jerk reaction extends too far. Mm-hmm. You guys are now giving the other, all the haters, you're giving all the haters ammunition, A, and B, you're doing it at my expense.
Yeah.
So don't do that. And so that's why I think that there's actually going to be a significant amount of pushback on this. I don't see it passing through the Senate, and but there's a lot of money that's being pushed around through the ADL and stuff that might buy some votes here and there, but it's ultimately going to get kicked up to the Supreme Court no matter what. And they're going to be like, we may even agree with certain tenets of this. However, it cannot live in its current state because it is a direct violation to the First Amendment, and that's our goal. Or that's our job, is to protect the Constitution. So,
and that's why I led that way. Like, I don't disagree with the contents per se, but the method by which they're trying to, ratify this into a law is not. I'm not on board. We will follow that with great intent. There's no real clean way to segue this. I'm trying to think.
Hard segue.
We're going to make a hard left. Speaking of Fuentes in favor of throwing people off buildings, another Boeing whistleblower just died. I mean, how do you switch gears? This is weird, dude. This is really weird. So the first one, couple months ago?
Yeah, I think we talked about it like a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Guy dies right after coming out on some safety concerns that he's blowing whistles on for Boeing. And things are not looking hot for Boeing. We've had plane doors fly open mid-flight. We've had flights go down. We've had questionable black box recovery efforts and contents and missing stuff.
The list is incredible. Like, if you go into all of the Boeing mishaps in air and otherwise, or prior to even taking off, it is a laundry list of, like, I can't believe this is happening all to one company within the very brief amount of time. Like, the amount of time that this has been going on, a plane company shouldn't have the amount that we've seen in a matter of a year, that in the entirety of their business history. Like, it is insane how much has happened, and it's really scary stuff, and dangerous and downright.
Thinking about this, dude, if you were the PR person in charge for Boeing, and you had a couple of flights go down, you had what was essentially an FAA recall on your flagship product that they grounded for quite a while for an investigation, and you knew, dating back several years prior to these incidents occurring, that you had unfavorable security complaints coming from your interior staff and people in leadership on the production side of the house, would you not, even if it was deceitful, frantically try to point the finger at a parts manufacturer? Oh, it was the fasteners company. We had a bad batch. We're going to take all these planes and recertify them through whatever and get new bolts in all the doors. Or we're going to fix the auto flight control thing where that one Jakarta flight went down that they knew was fucked up, that they didn't brief any of the pilots on. Yeah, like, would you not be raising red flags just on the off chance that these whistleblowers would continue to build and eventually go public? Like, when the damage reveals the cost, the short-term millions lost is nothing by comparison to, I feel, where we're at now with Boeing. Like, I don't know if you've seen their stock lately, but
no,
it's bad, dude. And like, this is like all encompassing. I mean, if you were that person, would you not open the book and investigate? Well, did we know about this? Has there been complaints? Did we look at?
I want to know who is in charge of Boeing's PR, because they have to have a firm. They have to have somebody that's in charge of this.
Yeah.
And I'm just absolutely blown away that this person is still working.
Right.
But that, I just don't can you imagine being the board of Boeing and going, you're putting out the fires, right? I mean, not the literal ones, but like the PR fires.
Yes, they're installing sprinkler systems. You're exactly right. Like, I watched a documentary which was extremely slanted, and I then researched kind of their site and sources. I don't remember the name of the doc. I apologize. It's on Netflix. Just, it'll pop up. They trace it back to when Boeing was acquired and did the merger with, I think it was Douglas or Mick Douglas. I think that's right. Because it was like the fledgling
McDonnell Douglas,
the hyper corporate, we want all the money, drive the cost of goods as low as possible, put duct tape and bobby pins in it, just drive share prices up. We don't care. And since then, it was like the slow trickle and decline of quality assurance in their products. That was sort of the representative angle that they took for a third of the entire doc. They're right. That's exactly lines up with when a lot of these memos started popping up, at least the ones that we know about so far.
Is that around the same time that the 780 was it the 787 when they could not get that thing to work? Do you remember that? That was
I
like
do
a hot
remember
topic
that
for a long time. Is that around the same time frame?
The merger happened prior to that.
Okay.
But yes. But that's my original point. Like, would you not then go back and be like, wait. Did we know about this? Show me the internal records. Who's bitching about quality assurance or maintenance schedules, or give me anything before this gets even worse, and try to craft a narrative around the reaction plan to save face with the FAA, inspire confidence with all the airlines that are principally using your product. Because this is a disaster. What we've got now is another whistleblower that died kind of suddenly. I'm reading an article from independent.co.ua that Joshua Dean, who is a quality auditor at Spirit Aerosystems, so he works for, I think, Spirit Airlines, died last week, according to his family. 45-year-old had an active lifestyle, was believed to be in very good health, passed away in the hospital following an onset of a fast-moving infection. He suffered from influenza B and MRSA and developed pneumonia, according to their source. And then John Barnett, 62, a quality control engineer at Boeing for 32 years, was found dead in the hotel in March. So this was back in March. The first guy, reportedly from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And the odd part about the first story was that, he had mentioned to people that he knew personally, if anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident kind of thing. So
Right.
now with two dead guys, like, the conspiracy theories are heating up. It's time to tighten the tinfoil down, because this could have just been an odd circumstance, but this is another terrible blow for Boeing press, dude. Like,
Yeah. So I guess the board asked PR, what are you doing to squash all this? And they went, oh, don't worry, we got to handle. We'll just kill them all. Like, is that what they? We'll just kill anybody who says anything.
Could you imagine the board decision for that one? All right, and the next article before lunch is this whistleblower business. Now, we've got a top-notch wet work team out of Finland that's ready to inject influenza and MRSA into healthy people. Like, this sounds like a Jason Bourne movie. It doesn't sound like real life. Now, granted, I'm not suggesting this. That in the second case that this guy was offed by Boeing. The first case is a lot more strange to me, that I believe requires a shitload more investigation.
Agreed.
People are kind of quiet about until this one. But the result is, here's the payoff, right? A bunch of whistleblowers are about ready to come forward, I guess.
I heard like 10 of them or more.
10 more people.
Yeah, that's wild. They're like, all right, this is crazy. We were hoping that the dam would break with the first guy. Then he got offed, and everyone was like, ooh. And they're like, okay, the second guy pops up, and then he dies from the flu and MRSA. And they're like, oh, this is crazy. I guess, do you guys all want to band together and just launch all at once?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what happened, is they just like, we're like, we've got to work as a team, or we're going to get picked off one at a time. And
isn't that the Pokemon slogan, gotta catch 'em all, or whatever? Maybe
I think so.
Maybe
that's not my generation,
but me either. But maybe the Boeing's Pokemon Go game is them just often whistleblowers, gotta catch 'em all. I'm looking at a photo of Joshua Dean. He looks stacked. He's lean. He's healthy. He's got a You know, he's got a high fade. He looks former military just by his posture and his aesthetic. Doesn't look like he's sickly, overweight, nothing wrong with him.
Sounds like you're forming a crush almost.
Yeah, I mean, hey.
No. You're like, he's dreamy.
Those eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the story goes on to say he went public with claims that Spirit's leadership ignored manufacturing defects in the 737 MAX in a complaint to the Federal Aviation Administration in December of 2023 as part of a lawsuit filed against the company by shareholders in December of 2023. He told the Wall Street Journal in January that he'd been fired in April of 2023 for pointing out that holes in jet fuselages had been drilled incorrectly. Yeah. Nuts.
Wow. Yeah, no. I hope that the truth comes out. I hope that these 10 people aren't just a bunch of crackpots, that they've got legit. I mean, obviously the evidence is there because it keeps falling out of the sky. But I don't think that I trust humanity enough for them not to bungle this when truth needs to be handled properly. You know, like there's one of these 10 is going to screw it up. One of them is, you know, now's phase 2 where there's only 7 of them. The other 3 are plants to screw it all up. You know, and something that, I mean, my tinfoil hat is really tight right now, but like,
well, me too. There is some light at the end of this tunnel. 6 hours ago, Airbus decided to throw Boeing a bone. One of the Airbus models caught fire. Maybe take a little heat off the Boeing QC.
I'm never flying again. This is insane.
Yeah. I'm actually getting this from the Seattle Times. Passengers on a Delta flight just landed in SeaTac International Airport. Had to evacuate on emergency chutes because of a fire in the nose of the plane. Delta Flight 604 from Cancun arrived at SeaTac around 9:35 p.m. and plugged into electric power. Sparks then caused an apparent fire in the nose area of the Airbus A321neo. There wasn't any fire when the Port of Seattle firefighters arrived, but they did spray water onto the area. No major injuries were reported. The narrow-body jet was built in 2022, according to the FAA on initial report. So Airbus is trying to help them out. Like, hey, man, we'll light the nose of ours on fire, maybe pull some of that bad press off. Competition's at least good. I don't get it. I don't get why, you know, and the argument forever has been, well, flying is statistically safer than driving or whatever. It's like, yeah, but there's also hundreds of millions of driving actions that go across the world on a daily, but the numbers are skewed, right? When one plane goes down, it's only however many souls that aircraft can carry that could be lost. Not to make light of it at all. I'm just saying, like, that's not a fair comparison.
The math is more complicated than that, is what you're trying to say.
It's way more complicated. It's just not apples to other kinds of apples. I mean, how many times have you driven a motor vehicle in your life? Just top of your head. You can't.
I can't even begin to put a number to that.
I've been driving for X number of years. Like, it's not. So I don't think it's a fair comparison, but the amount of craziness that's going on with Boeing and now the Airbus, which may be an isolated case, it's kind of bananas. It's all just popping up now too. I'd love to put some tinfoil spin on it. Like, well, it's an election year, which means we've got to have.
I was thinking before when you were talking, I was like, now is this becoming more common, or is it just because of the fact that we are in the instant gratification, every single thing that happens is instantly on our phone? Are we just noticing more?
Well,
like in the 80s and 90s, was there planes falling out of the sky or parts falling off of it? I mean, isn't that what the whole Donnie Darko movie was based off of? Was exactly that. But like we were aware that planes crashed from time to time, but was it so frequent that we just weren't catching it because it was a regional news thing rather than instantaneously we knew every plane that was in the sky on the planet. You think it's a bit of both?
It's a bit of both because the common denominator is this 737 Max, right? Up until the Airbus story, right? So, and a lot of it is Boeing, and then questionable whistleblowing that's now coming out over and over again. I think the death is tragic. The 2 deaths are tragic, but it's adding fuel to a conspiratorial fire around a situation that is frankly fucking crazy that needs to stop. So I think it is more in line with deep manufacturing defects and their inability to take action on them appropriately because they're trying to save money. But yeah, the other side of that, there's got to be some of it. Like, you know, you can get your news seconds after it occurs through any, you know, you're connected always. You could basically taste the brain matter in high definition if you like. I get it. So I think that's driving the situation into a little bit more of a frenzy. But by and large, I think there's massive issues with this 737.
Oh yeah. I remember all the troubles that they were going through to make it. Well, that was going on during our early years of living in Seattle.
Yeah,
and that's basically all AM radio, drive time radio would talk about is the Boeing issues with the plane. You know, between Sounders games and Seahawks games and Mariners games, they're like, and is the plane ready yet? That and the drill for the tunnel that kept messing up for years and years, and they, you know, couldn't get that Big Bertha thing to actually drill the hole, and it got stuck down there for a while.
Oh my god!
They couldn't figure out how to back it out.
That detour tunnel project that the constituents of the Emerald City voted down 6 times in a row, and then they went to Christine Gregoire to get extra money for it to force it through. I had a heyday with that on my last pod for probably a year, like just uncovering all the bullshit that went through that. Yeah. But so to your point, that the plane issue was like arriving on scene at that point for Boeing as well.
And it was a constant hot topic, and everybody kept like scratching. They're like, isn't that what they do? Isn't that their one job is to figure out how to make planes? Like that's what they've been doing for decades and decades. And now, like, they can't figure this one out. It's been like 4 years, and this thing's still in production, and they're losing all this money, and you know, and so then they're like, oh, we got it finished, and then now every one of them are falling out of the sky. So,
well, the FAA has halted production of another one of their 737 MAX 9s earlier this year as well. They've got like tons of import violations and now safety stuff that they're having to pay through the nose on. And their stock price just year to date went from $251.76 to a closing of $176.71. This is 30%, we'll say. It's 29.8% change year over year. Or excuse me, year to date. So that's like they're in a free fall. It's not even a slow burn. It's just steadily going down.
I think I said last time that this was it for Boeing. They're not going to be able to pull through this. And then the next person died, and then 10 other people came out. And so I think Boeing is on a lifeline here, and I don't think they're going to make it through.
You think there's a bailout in store for Boeing?
There's going to have to be, and it's going to really make a lot of people mad. Mm-hmm. But there's no other way around it, you know. But I don't know.
Like
I'm a capitalist purist. I'm like, let him fail.
Right. Northrop Grumman, Airbus, and Lockheed could probably pitch him a bone, but I hate bailouts. I'm on record as saying that. I just don't like them. Okay. I had to cover it because fuck, man. Another one's out of nowhere, right?
Right.
So, you had a couple points to make this week as well. Your daughter's adulting now. You have an update from the Utah stuff.
Yeah.
And we got a bit of a movie review, which I also watched. So I can't wait to talk about that. Talk to me. What's going on? Parent corner.
Let's do the update first, because I think that'll probably be briefer.
Yeah.
But so as of today, we hadn't heard anything for weeks and weeks. Like, it just dropped off. They were hoping everybody would forget about it. But
I'll set the tone briefly. This is about the Utah girls basketball team that we've been on for quite a few episodes now. Were there racial slurs? Was there
supposedly?
Yeah,
supposedly there was an incident where they some big lifted trucks, one of them being white with Confederate flags coming off the back of it, drove past the Utah State women's basketball team.
Yeah, on their way to dinner or something.
On their way to dinner,
yeah,
and threw out some racial epithets at them, and everyone in the community questioned it because they did a big weird press release
with no evidence.
With no evidence, with no witnesses, nothing. It was just off the word of one guy who was financing the team in a weird way, and he was drunk when he called the cops, and like there was all of this stuff that just kind of pointed away from it being real.
Plenty of reasons to say this is bullshit.
Yeah, and that they just didn't want to be housed in Coeur d'Alene rather than near the convention in Spokane, and they already had preconceived biases, which gave a particular political group in town reasons to jump on it, to exploit it, even though there was nothing, there was no there. There was nothing that happened, and therefore it made them all look foolish. Mm-hmm. And the police department kind of foolish. So a couple of weeks later, they said, here's our evidence. And it was like blurry pictures of a silver car.
Right.
And no audio. And it was like, that's not what was said at all. This is BS. And it got worse for them. And so then...
It's a Bigfoot painting. That helps no one. Yeah.
Right. And so then at that point, they got quiet again for a while. And then, but the agitators in town were still pushing. They're like, it's week 9 and still no evidence.
Yeah.
We've put out like rewards for it. So then today they do, maybe it was yesterday, they did a press release, and it was the hot topic because they're like, we found the kid who said it. He's an 18-year-old kid. And they named this kid. He's a Post Falls high school kid. He's 18. And they're like, he's the one who said it, but there was no crime committed, so we're not pressing charges.
Oh my gosh.
Well, okay. So then if you dig into it, turns out the kid didn't actually admit to it, and in fact retracted even the story that they were trying to pull out of him. And on top of that, they say they have video and audio of it, but they want the police department wants $2,500 if you want, like, if any of the journalists want access to it.
They put a journalism bounty on something that can be pulled through the Freedom of Information Act.
Yep. So, and because it's such a big file, and they're like, is it? Like, you haven't even sent out, like, what? So, but yeah, they're asking for $2,500, and they're not specifying whether or not the audio and the video are merged, or if you put in for the video, if you're just going to get video and no audio. So they'll probably charge separately for each. And so there's a bunch of people trying to raise money right now to get that, because everyone thinks that they made it that price intentionally to deter people from actually pursuing it.
Here's the problem with the people that are going to burn money on this. Don't, because you can pull it through the Freedom of Information Act, and you should push to the highest levels of authority at the state level that you can get to force them to furnish that over to the public. Two, you cannot verify the authenticity of said file that you've purchased. It's like buying a landscape for a web design on Fiverr. Like, who the fuck knows what they made? Like, if it's been edited, you have no idea. And the gall to charge $2,500 for a piece of evidence that somebody asked for because you stirred up shit in a public forum by creating a press conference on some shit you had no evidence for. Never mind the fact that going back to this high school student that is highly unlikely to get a job outside of high school now that his name is Googleable with such an offense. Like, he's going to need legal help for a long time to get those records sealed up. Like, who's running that town?
Right. So now the feeling is that, okay, well, we're going to flip this around on you, because now we're going to sue the guy who made the complaint. We're going to sue the mayor.
Yeah.
We're going to sue all of the people who painted the entire community as racists.
Yep.
You know, because that's what they did. They said we're a bunch of racist hillbilly rednecks. And that this is so commonplace that we need to put a stop to it. This was a crime when it never happened. And so therefore, like, this kid and the community at large needs to sue every single person who made this claim. Mm-hmm. Sue them into oblivion. Sue them into the ground.
Yeah.
And keep that from happening again. Like, let's make sure that these type of things don't just become commonplace because they're useful to political situations. And yeah, so we'll see. If I get another update on this, but that was literally it.
Yeah, is that even nothing else? Is that even legal to charge for?
Yes, it is.
Because it's now it's not an ongoing investigation, so it's not technically evidence of a crime they said committed. Whoops, joke's on us. That's not real. Well, so if you want a video that we made, here's the price tag for it. That doesn't scale to me.
Well,
that's the only way they can.
Stipulations in the state of Idaho that say that if you want particular evidences, if it's over a particular amount of like emails or over a particular amount of information, that you
got to pay the legwork for somebody to aggregate it and give it to you, right? Like,
right, exactly.
Right.
So now if it's like Aaron, you know, a lot of people that we know do a ton of these, and Aaron does quite a bit of them. So, and so, you know, all the FOIA requests that she puts in, she has to narrow it down to particular dates with a whole bunch of keywords in order for those to narrow down, so she doesn't get a giant stack and it doesn't cost her $1,000 for them to pull it. So if she can get it under a particular amount, it's free. So they're very careful with how they do this. Now they just, I think, arbitrarily threw a price tag on this one. So I'm wondering if that's going to get challenged, like from the Attorney General. There are probably people within my groups and organizations that are already working on that because they really want to get to the bottom of this.
Well, they should.
Essentially for a lawsuit.
That part, and get your money back, I guess. The problem is, like, who knows who edited this file that they're trying to sell for $2,500?
Right.
Like, I don't know. And there's no real try before you buy on stuff like that. You either buy it or you don't. But to me, in an effort to say that they're willing to release the information so suddenly that they were protective of because of a, quote, ongoing investigation during the last update we had on this story, must then mean that they're dropping all charges. There was no crime committed. Whoops. Don't worry about it. Stop asking questions. And if you want it, pay us money for it. And then to do what with, they'll never acknowledge the validity of that, even if they're the ones that sold it to you. Ever.
Because it did its purpose. The purpose was already served.
Yeah, it's a spin tool.
Right. It doesn't need to be true. It doesn't need to be, basically they just needed to stir the public up about it and then let it wash away in the, in the news so that they didn't have to really deal with it. But it already damaged. The damage is already done.
Do you know when your next mayoral campaign race is for that position?
Yeah, so Hammond just got elected 2 years ago, so we still got 2 more years. So not this November, but then 2 Novembers from then. So we still have 2 more years on him. If
you find a candidate worth backing, I would use this as ammunition for the political gun, because this is silly.
It's a stronghold. So unfortunately, the Coeur d'Alene City Council, like everywhere else, is fine. We can get our people in all over the place. The Coeur d'Alene City Council and mayor is a stronghold because of the fact that inside the city of Coeur d'Alene, it's pretty purple. And so it's really hard to get them out. The entirety of the board, the city council board, are all left leaning, and so is the mayor, which is super odd for northern Idaho. But in this particular case, it's really hard to get them out.
Break down the city budgets. You'll find where the most amount of money is where the most amount of blue is.
Oh, yeah. And they actually have destroyed the budget, and it's become a big problem for them. But it still, for some reason, doesn't mean like we have the same city council now working on their third terms because we could not remove anyone, not a single seat. And everywhere else, we're getting wins all the time. But in those particular seats, we haven't really pushed a lot of super solid candidates. We've had some decent ones, but no one really solid for city council, especially this last one. The one previous, and it's just they got more money, they got more name recognition, and in the city of Coeur d'Alene, that's really all that matters. So we're working hard on that because literally it is the hub of control, even over the county. Whatever the city of Coeur d'Alene does, whatever the city of Coeur d'Alene does, everyone follows suit. So Post Falls, Hayden, everybody else, sooner or later will follow suit, and they are the hub of basically urban renewal and all of the new, development projects. All of it comes out of that hub. The college is directly affected by it. The libraries are directly affected by Coeur d'Alene. So all of the taxing districts, even within the county, is somewhat controlled by what happens within Coeur d'Alene. So it is a stronghold of blue that we are trying to turn, because once that happens, all of the other ones loosen up and make it a lot easier to kind of really create policy that's actually better for the community. So, but
well, you're definitely building political ammo with stunts like this, because none of this made sense when it happened. None of it made sense through the updates, and it sounds like it was an outright lie, considering this last piece of information. So, good Lord.
Yeah. So, but anyway, on to other news. My daughter is graduating.
Let's go.
And I'm having obvious, dad feelings about it for sure. But this is a new, and I knew it was coming. Obviously, she's been 18 since November, and she's had senioritis for a while. So this is, her last day of school was today.
That's insane.
And she has her graduation ceremony on the 1st of June. And it is a weird feeling to think that I've only got one more kid who's only got a couple more, 3 more years of school and sports, and then it's done. Now does that mean it's done, being a dad or them living here? No, but just chop them off. All right, you're done.
You should get a time clock and just literally punch out, and then just pull her time card and put it in an envelope and then just burn it, and then just look at your son and point to his name on the other time card. Not say anything, no context. Just no, that's bananas. I remember, dude, nostalgia moment. I remember when you first told me that you and your wife were having a child, and I didn't know how to react to it because, one, you're a troll. 2, you tell me on or around April Fool's Day.
It was exactly April Fool's Day.
And I remember it was downstairs in the basement where we had the pool table and all that stuff. And I was in shock because I was like, part of me wanted to be excited. Part of me wanted to be like, are you ready for this? And the other part of me was like, nah, he's full of shit. You know what I mean? Where I'm just like, I literally stood there trying to find a word for quite a while. And then I look behind you and I see the wife and she's grinning ear to ear and it's starting to settle in. And I was like, oh shit, this is huge. So yeah, I got delayed excitement, not because I had some kind of feeling on it. I was like, I don't know if this is truth.
Right. Well, to be fair, we had just gotten married 2 weeks prior.
Yeah.
So like we got married March 17th, and on April 1st, we find out that we're pregnant.
Yeah.
And so we'd been pregnant for about a month at that point. So we were a month along, but only married for 2 weeks. So no one expected it. We didn't expect it. And so
that day felt like yesterday. And that was almost 19 years ago or whatever, considering the 9-month term and all that.
Yeah.
Like, God damn,
19 years ago. Yeah. So, and then the best part about it is that we ended up, without thinking about it, having to call her parents to let them know.
Yeah.
On
did I know before they did?
I think so.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So, but then
I won't put that on a podcast one day.
But we didn't think anything about it. We just called it. And apparently Aaron had made that prank call a couple of times over the course of the couple years prior. And so they didn't believe us. And we had to walk them through that, and they were not happy for a long time.
Yeah,
so
I imagine not. Well,
can you imagine any parent's daughter procreating with this guy?
I was going to say,
no one's going to be happy about that.
I'm not convinced that they were your biggest fan up until that point. I think it was like you had to claw some favoritism out of that group,
which is really weird because any other relationship that I'd ever been in, like the parents loved me.
They still text you long after the breakup.
Right. Yeah. And so I've never had a situation where the parents didn't like me.
Yeah.
So this was an odd one. This one was like, and I tried, man. I even asked for her hand in marriage. I would go up there when she wasn't even there to their house and help like with wood splitting or help cook. And I'm a charming bastard. So like it was really bothersome to me that like
he's a real charmnoceros, chat.
Yeah. But yeah, it was something that really bothered me that I could not break through, that this family tolerated me but did not I was not the choice for their daughter. And so but after a while,
in fairness, looking at guys like you and me, I'm not sure that we're the doctor that a parent has always dreamed of for their daughter. You know what I mean? Like generally speaking, but yeah, the
45-year-old me gets it, but the 25-year-old me did not.
Of course not.
So like, it's like, what's so wrong with me?
Right.
And so, and over the course of the 10 years, I mean, we moved to Seattle,
right,
because of a number of different reasons, but one of the primary reasons was just to kind of get her away from her family for a while. And
that environment was pretty sick back then.
It was
I could see it through obviously rose-colored lenses. I had my own shit going on, but like it was probably a good idea. Her family, you, everybody, all of it, but also the area was just.
I mean, to be fair, like before we even started dating, your and my social life was excessive. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
We had an excessive social life. We were constantly in a sea of humans.
Yeah.
We had a huge friend group, and we were always in a social situation.
Yep.
So it was really hard to turn that off for everybody else when Aaron and I got married.
Mm-hmm.
So like then, it was really hard for me to say, no, like we're married, like we can't socialize all the time now. So we were always inundated and flooded with just people coming over and wanting to party and then, she's immediately pregnant after, the wedding, and we're in a totally different headspace. We're in a totally different world. And people were kind of getting mad that we weren't doing the same thing that we did.
Right. It's a tough break, especially with the two of you just trying to figure life together out 2 weeks in, now we have the introduction of a child into the mix.
Yeah.
Looking back on all that, I think it was as crazy as it was. I think it was really good that you guys did get that break away and kind of experience different lifestyle and eventually chase dreams and, you know, build new career over there and all the stuff that went on. But
I think we would have been stuck pleasing other people every day.
yeah,
I think we would have been here catering to everybody else's needs, her and I, and we would not have become who we are. And it would have not developed properly because we would have been making sacrifices for family and for other people and friends that would not have allowed us the opportunity because we're like, well, we could do this, but these people need us, or this thing needs us, or this event is happening. We can't do the thing that we want or need to do, you know, and being around that would have obligated us to certain things that we kind of removed ourselves from that obligation, you know, and moved over there. And then
socially, it was like tearing a Band-Aid off, but it was probably for the best. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then, but through all that, like, you know, the day Kate was born, you know, first of all, Erin had a pretty rough pregnancy. Big scare. We thought she was getting big. We thought she was having twins, as they run in both sides of our family. Turns out it was a 7-pound ovarian cyst. And so about 3 or 4 months in, she had to have surgery. And I believe you were there to help me out with that.
Yep.
And I was terrified. You know, it's not even the birth of a baby. It's like your pregnant wife is going in to have an organ removed.
Right.
And my first experience with any of that. So we're sitting there, and I don't know if it was you or Scott, Aaron's brother, brought down the Xbox into the lobby of the hospital while she was at surgery, and we plugged it in.
That was Scott and Kyle. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the TVs out there to distract me, like one of the CNN TVs in the hospital, and they just like plugged it into that and put them in. We were playing video games and outside the OR, and playing Halo 2 to keep me distracted because I was a bundle of nerves. And so she pulled through that, and then Kate was born, and a couple months later, and she was perfect. She came out perfect. She came out looking like the kid from Ice Age, the little Eskimo baby, the Neanderthal Eskimo baby, like dark jet black hair and like this round, like golden, like bronze skin, and a big round head and tons of dark hair. And I'm just like, what is that? You know, but turns out she looks exactly like me and her mother, and she is a carbon copy of my personality put into a much prettier version.
I remember when you guys brought her home too, and you stuck little chocolate chips all over, and we're just laughing at her like, what do we do with this thing? Like it was like a new TV from Best Buy or something. And
right.
Yeah, so now her last day of school is today.
Yeah.
She's all grown up, man.
She is. Yeah, she's a wonderful woman.
Yeah.
She's turned into, from being a joy of a child, like, you know, people always like kind of go, ooh, the girl, oh, you know, especially through the teenage years. She's never given me a day of grief. She's, the communication level on that girl and I is like untouchable. She's awesome.
Yeah.
But she's always been very, very smart, to the point of danger levels of intelligence. But she's always had a good quick wit, a good sense of humor. She's always had a good nature to her. She's never been a brat. She's always just been an easy kid. And she's grown into a very similar adult where she has a commanding self-confidence. She takes no crap from anybody. Like the tattooers at the shop are terrified of her because of just looks that she can give them, and they're like, yeah, dude, she's super intimidating, but also very, very in control of her emotions and very sweet, and knows what she wants. And I feel very accomplished with her, and I feel like she's got a very bright future. I don't see her making a whole lot of poor choices, even if it's something that is teeter-tottering on it, she would come to us and actually ask us, what should I do? And then listen to us and actually and go, no, that makes sense. She's very logical. So she's not combative with, if my parents say this, I'm going to do the opposite.
Yeah.
She's never been that way. But yeah, she's acquired an incredible sense of humor to the point where like she could probably do stand-up comedy when she's on a roll for sure. But she's wonderful and has been since the day she was born. And I've got tons and tons of pictures and memories, and it's going to be weird. It's going to be weird having this stage be over.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm the kind of guy that loves the chapters of a book.
Yeah.
So, and not that I'm in any rush, because I want her to live a little, but I know that her goal is she wants to be a mother. She loves kids, and I'm looking forward to being a grandparent. I love the idea of being a grandpa. So when that time comes in the next couple years, and we've done the math between when Ollie leaves the house and Kate brings grandchildren into the house, how many years we have,
right.
So I think we're looking between 2 to 5. So like,
well, book that cruise while you can. Sure.
I know, that's what we're thinking. We're like, we're just gonna be gone that whole time, so that way we can be back. And I'm looking forward to being the grandparent that our generation has kind of missed. Like, I want to be the grandparent, or the kids go, can we go to grandpa and grandma's,
Right.
And then they stay and we just have fun with the grandkids, and we take them on trips or go to the, the movies, or do, all the fun things that grandparents are supposed to do. And I'm looking forward to that. So, but it is definitely a weird thing to think about me at 18.
Oh, man.
She is. Yeah. And what I was doing and what I was up to at that age. And the solid difference between the two of us.
I mean, thank God girls have their head on straight much sooner than guys, generally speaking. Because, looking back on those times, good Lord, it's a miracle I'm still here.
We wouldn't be if the internet existed.
Oh God, no! I thank my lucky stars every day that there was no social media when I was in high school. Oh, dude.
Yeah. No.
Man. Yeah. Well, shit, dude. 18. Yeah. Goddamn. Congratulations 18. On adulthood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And graduation. Oh, she went to because they had a protocol thing like I was talking about with Oliver earlier.
Yeah.
She didn't end up going to that one. It was something she wasn't interested in doing, so she had other things to do. But she plays softball for a local high school here, for Lakeland, up in Rathdrum. And she's a varsity ball player there. And And so the girls on her team said, well, why don't you come to our senior prom? We'll get you a ticket. So she got all dressed up and went to her senior prom with all of her friends from her softball team. So
nice.
I was really happy that she got to experience that. I'm really happy that she got to, have that once in a lifetime kind of moment, that she would not have been able to have. I homeschooled all through growing up, and but I got invited to every homecoming and prom for 2 different high schools, so I was constantly in dance rotation all throughout high school, so never missed out on any of that. But I just wanted her to have that experience just once, and I'm glad she went and she had a good time. So that was cool. That was a cool part of it. But yeah, I'm excited to see what the next year does to her when now she's released from the shackles of the education system and is more in the workforce and you
Right.
know stuff like that. I would imagine that once softball stops and once school's done, and she's only working really, because she hasn't dated, you know,
Right.
she has never dated, and so
And she
I have a
doesn't need
feeling
to.
that-
That's fine. Just
no.
tell her to become a coach for softball. Just go right into the working world and coach softball from here.
Buy a Subaru and some flannel.
There's got to be some lines here. There's got to be some lines. None of that.
Some flannel, you know, a visor.
Just a visor and an Outback, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go coach some softball.
part-time accountant, full-time softball coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting. It really is, because once you're out of high school, there's a certain latent terror that builds up in the back of your mind too, where you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
It's like being set adrift.
Yeah.
Like you're
Like-
no longer anchored to anything at
yeah.
all. And
All
you're
you-
like,
All you want the whole time is to get to that point, and then you get there and you're like, I'm not ready at all. Like, yeah, for sure. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be really interesting. But congratulations to her. I can't wait to see you guys when you all come down.
Yeah.
Be cool.
Yeah, it's kind of partly her senior trip. Not that
Yeah.
she got to pick it, but she gets to get out of town for a
Your
little
daughter has got the short straw on many trips. I remember y'all were supposed to go to DC at one point. That didn't happen.
dude,
There was
I
like,
know.
it's kind of been body blow, headshot when it comes to her and take a trip. So hopefully she has a good
Right.
time. Because
Yeah.
she's kind of due, you know.
Yeah, totally. So, switching gears, you want to talk movies?
Let's do it. Rebel
All
Moon.
right. Finally get to
Part
kind
two.
of articulate Rebel Moon Part 2. So the Rebel Moon Part 1, I think we discussed prior, and it
Yeah.
was what's his name? What's the director's name?
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder. That's what
Yep.
it is. And I think I had described the first one as like fun.
Yep.
Obviously borrowing from a lot of different genres, but it was basically either the Seven Samurai or Magnificent Seven, whatever iteration you want, kind
Yep.
of applied to a very Star Warsy,
Yep.
but also kind of elements of like Firefly and a lot of different things kind of mashed together, but all weirdly recognizable within that mashing.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel super original, but it was fun the entire time.
That's the hard, but yeah, same thing. Couldn't agree more. I think it's hard to come up with original content like that when it's obvious where your inspirations are coming from, and then when you have so many of them,
Yeah.
it's like pretty easy to pick apart. Where you're like, oh well, that's just it's Star
A
Wars
little of
with
this,
less gusto, But
Right.
really, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think their casting choices were really good too. I
do too.
liked what I saw. I still
The art direction was beautiful.
art
The
direction
action
was great. The
really-
effects were cool. I still hate ultra high definition cameras being used for the filming of these series, and for one reason, and I know it makes me old and shit because I also shoot with high definition digital cameras when I make content. It looks like it was shot on a GoPro for some of the scenes. That's just what it is. It's just high def, high gloss background, digital background behind that, effects laden into it. It's the way it's color corrected and edited against what would probably be a lookup table of some kind to make the whole thing the same tonal color, the same tone. This is how films are made, right? But
Right.
to me, on a couch with a high def TV, it kind of looks like it was shot on a GoPro. And the reason I don't like that is it feels like it takes some of the magic away from some of these newer sci-fi stuff. So that's a gripe
Yeah.
I'm gonna have even with this one, but it's not exclusive to this. Just putting it out there, it takes you out of the magic of the movie a little bit for me. Rant
Totally.
over.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that high def stuff. Like when that first came out, I was like, they're gonna have to redo
Yep.
how they approach like TV makeup, because now you can see it. And it's like really jarring. It pulls you out of it, and it feels like a homemade movie with everyone wearing thick makeup on. And so, yeah, I remember that happening. I think they have kind of tried to adjust, but haven't really figured it out fully yet. But that being said, part two is, so I went into this kind of excited because I liked the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into it, and man, oh man, was it slow. It was so slow.
Thank God.
It was so
it's
slow.
like I'm about to shit on the pacing of this. I wonder what he says. Yeah.
And you're right. The pacing's wrong because it was just like drudgery.
Yeah.
And then way too much stimulation. All just
it was drudgery under the guise of character development, which they did a piss poor job of because there were too many fucking characters to develop.
They literally had to sit them around the table and go, "You're next. Your turn. What about you?"
Yes.
Like
yes. Same wavelength. Like they literally had to sit these fools down so they could talk about that one time in the past to find the relational point for their character arc. It was just
terrible. Right?
Are we doing this right here? This feels like an after-school special dropped right in the middle of a really fucking slow-moving movie. Yeah.
And I wanted to, and they kept hinting at, I don't know, the robot guy that's got the antlers now.
Right. He's suddenly like walking the earth like he's from Kung Fu.
Right. And so they didn't mention the traitor dude at all. Not once did they even bring him up. The guy who,
Charlie Hunnam's character.
Yeah, Charlie Hunnam's character.
Yeah.
Just dropped him off. Like, nope, he's in the past. And then the battle scene was really good, except for that it was way too much. Way too much.
Yeah.
It was just so much. Especially when like the ship's coming down and there's that final kind of battle scene between her and the dude and then the bad guy.
Yeah.
And they're doing a vertical fall. And it's just like they're having this like falling through a like Star Destroyer, essentially, like from Star Wars, falling through. I think it's called a Juggernaut. And they're falling vertically down, sliding all the way down and banging off of poles and stuff while they're lightsaber fighting and trying to shoot each other. And it's all very great. But it's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes of them falling doing this fight.
That's my gripe. If we're picking nits, all right, when we see this ship, it's already in low Earth. It's like below low Earth orbit. Like it's in the upper stratosphere, and it's huge. So as it's careening to Earth, we've got a minute tops for this to happen. And then the subsequent fight sequence while it's falling, plus the daring escape to try and get off of the falling ship, is like,
can we talk about that?
7.5 minutes long.
You're right. But the fact that like they fell for what felt like a quarter of a mile. Yeah. Right. So then she finally kills the dude and they're like, oh, we got him. All right, let's get back to the ship. And they're there instantly. They're just like, she drags his body, her friend's body into the ship. That's a quarter of a mile that way, straight up.
They're like making their ascent after a 7-minute fight sequence, and we're still led to believe that we're falling toward Earth this entire time to our doom.
I'll give sci-fi a lot of room to play in those type of okay, this couldn't happen kind of things. But that was just preposterous. I was just like, that. What?
And to your point about the obnoxious vastness of the fight scene that was like a long ass time. I think that's Snyder and company being like, this is our 300. This is our Mordor assault sequence. This is it.
Right.
We're doing it in the part 2, your Battle of Hoth, whatever. But it went for a while. And it's cool when you shoot the same scene with 35 different cameras, because you can extend the fight sequence into multiple perspectives because you get to see what the character's doing around, especially if there's relational points within the frame. It took you out of the moment, and it feels like we're fighting in Utah. Now we're suddenly fighting in South Carolina. Now we're way over here, and it just goes, dude. So I think they were like angling for like, this is our Mordor assault or whatever, and it just didn't land with me. I liked it. I was like, I'm along for the ride, but I'm not buying any of what you're selling. Like, none of this.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they finally bring in the robot guy near the end.
Yeah.
But then
now his entrance, his on-scene arrival was pretty sick.
It was. Yeah,
Zero context. None. He's just here now. Like that's the part that was
I'm here now, and I'm gonna save the entire day. Like,
right.
But so why didn't you jump in 45 minutes ago?
That's picking nits. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. Like, is it possible that we didn't see that coming?
Up on the mountain. Yeah, you were standing up on the mountain watching this all go down. Why didn't you just come down earlier?
That's the point. Like, did any of us not see this coming? No. Like, they even had a side-by-side sequence and the whole, inner turmoil and the do I, don't I thing. Like, we knew he was going to arrive on scene. We just didn't expect 57 minutes into a fight sequence with no context at all. He's just here now and just whipping ass. So antlers and all, my man is going full Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah. With the voice of Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, for that and for other reasons, I liked it, but the magic was constantly being pulled away from me over and over again throughout the whole thing.
Was it set up for? It's set up for a third one, right?
3. Yep.
Yeah. So and and then the backstory with the king and all of that stuff and the other because they have to go save the other princess girl. That's right. Which is kind of like a throw-in, like she wasn't mentioned but maybe once in the first movie and barely mentioned at all in this one until the end. They're like, but now you got to go find the little girl, and they're
this makes me wonder if Netflix, and we'll refer to them as quote the studio, had a lot of input on what was cut or what was going on, because Zack Snyder films are not short films. When you sit through a Zack Snyder cut, you take Watchmen, for example, you take the Batman situation. I mean, these are 4-hour cuts.
The Justice League that he did too was a 4-hour cut.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I get that I'm not missing a moment of the story for what you're trying to convey here. I felt like we're missing a shitload of story in this one for reasons that remain unclear. And I'm thinking maybe that Netflix had an input like, no, do your style, do your thing, do your original content, lock her down. We need, an hour 50, hour 56 is all you get, Zach. Because the whole time we're led to believe this anti-hero character is the focal point of the story until way fucking late in round 2, and we realized, nope, she's subservient to a greater cause with a very minimal backstory. It's like, oh, we're here now, and that's what's likely going to drive the plot line for the third one. I'm on board with you. It's like we're missing a lot here, probably because that felt super disconnected to get from point A to point B. Did it not? Like,
oh yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. That's exactly how I felt. I was like, I felt like it was a weird bait and switch type of thing where we were in the middle of a storyline where we're finally force-fed character development. Yeah. And then so we're like, okay, we've accepted the character development, and now none of the characters matter because you've just now introduced this character that apparently is pivotal to the next part of the saga. Right. And so, yeah, it was a weird.
The throwaway cameo piece, I was disappointed in because on my mind was the Charlie Hunnam character. Like, yeah, they didn't call back to that literally at all. It was a complete throwaway role. But I'm hopeful that in the last 5 minutes of this part 2, I'm going to get another cool Rockstar cameo appearance that will lead me into another throwaway character for the third act. Didn't get that. Like there was nobody. So we'll see if maybe they introduce another one, because the princess girl figure seems to be the focal point of the third part of the sequence. But I don't know. Yeah. Visually great, but expectations wise, I was really on a roller coaster ride with this one. Like,
I was hoping we would get the Empire Strikes Back to the New Hope, right? Yeah, and that this one would be the one that was just yes. But this one was a definite downgrade from the first one. I think this one probably give it 6 megs just for the entertainment value and the beauty of it.
Yeah.
But the pacing of it was awful.
It was so bad.
I was like, I do not care about these people farming. I get that you're trying to portray that they're engaging with the community and actually becoming part of it, but it was far too long.
Wait,
we get it.
You know where they should have put the farming? Like, if you want to feed me that much farming to really set the cultural pretense for this group of folks on this moon, develop the King story a hell of a lot more than you did, besides just one scene and oops, there's our protagonist. Oh God, and now we're back to talking about our feelings around a campfire for more character development.
Right.
Make them flashbacks and have a whole lot of farming going on in the King story as a larger flashback so that we get introduced to the idea that you're not the center or the focal point of the story, which is what we were led to believe the whole time.
Right.
So that's like, if you want that much farming, put her there, I guess. But that's what I was like, they had to have cut fucking 3 hours off of this two-parter so far, because it just was like, this pace blows, dude.
Yeah, for sure. So
I don't know. So if they had the second one in the can, because it released so close to the first one, you think the third one's done already? I haven't even Googled it. I assume.
I would imagine that the principal filming's done. They're probably putting the bells and whistles on it, and But yeah, I mean, it was so fast that the second one came out that they've already filmed everything.
Yeah,
I would imagine. So,
I have a weird recommendation, because this is not my type of movie at all. I mean, at all. But for what they were trying to capture, with New York, the New York Police Department, the city felt very much like a character. Awesome acting with Edward Norton and Colin Farrell. I went back and watched Pride and Glory from 2008 this week. Very, very good. One thing that I found super interesting about that, there's a scene where I won't give too much away, but basically the crowd outside of a scene in progress, because they're very anti-cops for reasons that you come to understand by the time that scene takes place, whip themselves up into such a frenzy that it occurs to me that so many years later, when I see this stuff happening in public streets in America, it's like, oh, this is a playbook. Like, you can predict human nature's reaction to stuff like this, even in the moment. And the person really captured that way back in 2008 when this film was shot. And I was like, it was like looking through time and space to 2020 from 2008, just in the nature of how folks were so quick to get into mob mentality around a situation that you'll come to understand through watching the film.
Okay.
Brilliantly shot. I'm not a big, New York cop film guy, whatever. Love Ed Norton. Right. I love Colin Farrell. They do really good work. I recommend it. Oddly, this is not a place. It's not a place I go often, but Pride and Glory is a fantastic movie. And it really captures parts of human nature that were quite revealing that I just never saw before. So give her a spin this week if you're thinking about it. But I'm going back to Rebel Moon Part 2. I had 5 megs down. I think I'm a little harder on these than you, but it was fun to watch still. But it was very unbelievable. Less magic. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, I'll watch Pride and Glory tonight, and then I'll see if there's such a dry spell right now because of the writer's strike on anything worth watching. There's a couple of them that I'm like, I'm not in the mood. Like, I want to see it, but I'm never in the right mood. But yeah, I need Aaron
Sorkin to write something. Like, I need Aaron Sorkin's Few Good Men from 2024. Give me a good heady dialogue film to just chew through about military or American politics or the state of society or something. But there's nothing, to your point. There's not even series that I'm like, Fallout was great though. I mean, but after that I was just like, Pride and Glory. Turns out I liked it. So, hey.
I tried to watch War Inc. last night, which was supposed to be kind of the comedic, loose, sequel in theory to Gross Point Blank.
Yeah.
But it wasn't nearly as charming, and I fell asleep because it was. I don't know. I wasn't enjoying it. It seemed pretty far fetched. But
here's something I learned. I'm a massive fan of terrible 80s action films. If it's got Sly or Schwarzenegger or like, I'm there. I understand they are redoing The Running Man, which among the Schwarzenegger films, that's the one that is the most off the wall silly among his like peak of his powers going into Terminators or between Terminators and all that stuff. The one-liners are disgusting. I love every part of it. It's just, it makes no fucking sense. They're redoing this film. You know who's going to play the lead in this?
I've heard
it's the guy that plays the Iceman character in the new Top Gun Maverick, the younger, like stacked version, the Hangman, the guy that's always hanging his team out to dry. Did you see Top Gun Maverick?
I did, yeah.
Let me pull up his name now. Top Gun Maverick cast.
Yeah, this is actually Running Man is I think a Philip K. Dick
Glenn Powell
adaptation.
It is.
Okay, yeah. So Philip K. Dick, obviously, Total Recall, Blade Runner, Scanner Darkly, like, and a ton of other ones too. Imposter. What was the one with Ben Affleck where he gets his brain erased? Doesn't matter. Anyway, there's a ton of these adaptations from Philip K. Dick novels.
This isn't Philip K. Dick, actually.
It's not?
No. This was when Stephen King wrote under a different name.
Oh, that's what it is. Never mind. I was
where
totally
it's like,
wrong.
are they buying my name or are they buying my content kind of shit?
Right.
This is a Stephen King book.
Okay.
Yeah, I very closely related to, because the other movies that came out were Philip K. Dick adaptations. Yeah, this, I was like, because Paul Michael Glaser did this one in 86, 87.
Yeah.
This was a Stephen King book.
Okay. That makes more sense. No. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I love the original Running Man.
God, if they film this, dude, I'm in.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Like, I will absolutely support this. I just hope that they don't do, like, I enjoyed the new version, the Colin Farrell version of Total Recall. But it wasn't Total Recall. It was just a different sci-fi movie that I enjoyed with loose kind of ties to the Total. But like, you do not give us a Total Recall that isn't on Mars.
Right.
Doesn't have a Watto character with the guy coming out of his belly.
Yep.
A three-boobed. Like, give me three boobs. You got to give me the weird armed guy. You got to give me all of those things.
They gave us Harold from Harold and Kumar, and they gave us Kate Beckinsale. I'm not arguing those 2 points.
Agreed.
Because Kate Beckinsale is very pretty, and I like her a lot. But
you know what's so weird about Harold from Harold and Kumar?
What?
2 things. One, he's gay in real life.
He's awesome in Star Trek. John Cho is gay?
No, never mind. I'm thinking about Kumar.
Kumar, yeah.
Kumar. But Kumar is gay in real life, and he also worked for the Obama administration.
Did he really?
Yeah. Like, he dropped out of acting and actually was part of Obama's administration. I
learned that my biological grandfather was a staffer for George W. Bush.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah. He's got a plaque in his office that has a thank you and a handwritten signature from the President of the United States for his work on policy stuff and different things. Yeah. Wild.
That's crazy.
It's like, interesting. Yeah. Future times for future pods. But that said, if they remake The Running Man, I don't want them to woke it up, and I don't want there has to be silliness and off the wallness of, like, I mean, you get like Dynamo is this dude in tighty whities that can sing loud. Like,
if they were smart, they would give us The Running Man, with a new cast, but they would do it in a Roadhouse or
Yeah.
in a Top Gun kind of way, where they're just like, screw it, we're just making a rad action movie.
It's close to reality because you can recognize the sets, but there's no poignant period of time or no relational point. Yeah, 100%. But they got to have shitty one-liners too. He had to split.
Oh, yeah.
Like I want all of that back somehow. So anyway, I heard that. I hope it's true. It sounds like it is. Board. So I'm on board. But with that, I should probably let you go.
No, not before I get my weekly dose of
we got to
Gen Z. Yeah.
We almost forgot. I normally put it on the counter before we do this. So, got to do my. Where were we?
I need my weekly spiritual uplifting.
So did we do? You got to help me out here. Baptism.
Yeah, we did baptism.
Okay.
Because we were talking about John the Baptist.
Okay, so did we do the Tempter? This is where we're at. So. Chapter 9, the Tempter.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
And this, again, beautiful artwork. There's a very forlorn-looking Christ just chilling right there.
This is obviously the temptation of Christ when he went out into the desert.
Yep. So chapter 9, the Tempter. After this, Holy Bro went out into the desert to vibe with the Divine G alone in preparation to 1v1 the Op of Ops. Now, for almost 40 days, it was a mood. And then the Op of Ops pulled up with his intrusive thoughts saying, "If you are the main character, turn this stone into bread, for surely you will eat and leave no crumbs." But Jesus said, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of the divine dad lore." Then the Op said, "Throw yourself down from this holy skyscraper, for God said he will come in clutch." But Jesus said, "You play in too much. For it is written, you must pass the divine vibe check." Then the Rizless ones streamed all the kingdoms of the world and said, "I am truly goated and run all these streets. Stand me and I'll let you ride or die by my side." But Jesus said, "Bruh, you thought I was feeling you? Uno reverse. Now yeet from me, Op of Ops." Then the devil ghosted him, but angels came in clutch. But Satan was typing.
Oh man, that's so good, dude. That's so good.
Yeah. I normally have this preset out on this countertop, so thanks for reminding me. Gospel by Gen Z. It's a hardback. This is a version 1, and I was told I would not get one. You can only get soft paperback versions of this now, I guess. And I also got it a month and a half ahead of schedule. So I was one of the pressings apparently that got this thing. They came in clutch for your boy. And I can't wait for you to see it. There's so much more content. The glossary of terms in the back is what you're going to get a kick out of the most. But there we go. There's our content for the week. Apologies, I forgot. I forgot that. But okay. I know you're moving soon. I got some stuff coming up. I am hopeful that when you're down here, we'll get to do a live podcast, which might be really fun. Whether we do it on Tuesday or not, we'll keep you posted.
So much fun.
I know the schedule will be very hit or miss for sounds like both of us over the next couple of weeks. But hang in there with us. Keep checking us out. You can find us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Come hang out with us on YouTube. We usually do this Tuesday evenings, right around 5-ish. But yeah, we'll keep at it as best we can.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, with that, have a good night, everybody. We will see you very soon.
Night, everyone. Thank you.